Hi guys, Rob Lester here from Lester Bathrooms. Thank you for taking the time to check out our channel where we're all about bathrooms, and in today's video I've got a selection of plumbing valves that you'll see around your house. I'm just going to explain to you which ones you should use and which ones you should look out for your project. Let's have a look. So before we get into the video, if you could please consider subscribing to this channel. There's a button down here. It just helps me make content to help your project run a bit more smoothly. Right, so plumbing valves. Got a whole swathe of plumbing valves on here, and if you're doing your project for the first time, your bathroom, it could be a little bit overwhelming for what to choose and what to use and when and where to put them. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of everything that I use in our bathrooms, when to use them, when not to use them, which ones look the smartest, and ease of use. Okay, so stopcock. We'll probably see this in our house somewhere under our kitchen sink or somewhere where the mains water comes in the house. Usually it has a 25mm blue pipe coming underneath it and then reduces out to copper. So we shut this off and it shuts the mains water off coming into the house. You'll notice it is directional, so it does have an arrow pointing on the way the water needs to flow. So if you're fitting a stopcock for the first time, obviously bear in mind that it is directional. Shouldn't really need to use this too much in a bathroom unless you have a ground floor bathroom and you have a mains cold in that bathroom and you need to change the stopcock. So that's a big one, but really doesn't impact us too much in our normal day-to-day installation life of bathrooms. So we'll put that to one side. This is our Ballofix insulation valve. Ballofix usually called in the trade because it has a little ball in the center of this, and when you turn the thread, it turns the ball to shut on and off the water. So you just take a screwdriver here, and when the thread is vertical like that, it's open, and when it's horizontal like that, it is closed. And then you can see the ball inside there opening and closing when we turn that. If you can see that, there we go. So these are very, very common. You see these day in, day out when we're doing our bathrooms. These also are directional, and you'll see they have a little arrow on pointing to the direction of the water. They are heavily reduced though, is the only problem. If you're on a gravity fed system where you have an airing cupboard with a hot water cylinder and a cold water storage tank in the loft, that's a gravity fed system. And if you look down the center, you can see that they're quite restrictive. So they will restrict the flow to your basin and toilet and other such things. So they're good to use, and we do use them. We do use them on a regular occasion when we have high pressure systems, mega flows, things like that. So they are commonly used. The only problem with them that I tend to find, and drop a comment in the comment section if you've experienced this as well, if they've been stood open for many years and you go to close them like that, you can get them starting to weep from the middle section here. I think it's where limescale and detritus builds up in the valve over time and just creates a bit of a, I don't know, breaks down the seal in there, I imagine. Put a comment in the comment section if you know exactly mechanically what happens, but we've had so many of these where we shut them off and they just drip, drip, drip from the center section. So bearing that in mind, if you've got a high pressure system and you really want to use these, may be worth using the next version up, which is the lever valve version of these. I haven't experienced so many issues with these where standing still over time you try and isolate them that they leak through the middle. I think they're slightly better. These also are directional, so bear in mind you've got the arrow pointing that way. Okay, so these are that's your most common one. That's probably a bit of an upgrade, and that moves us on to the next isolation valve. So we do have now a full bore 15mm isolation valve. Difference between that and that, these are still directional. They still have an arrow going through to follow the flow of the water. But if you look down through the center, they are full aperture pretty much. They give you a full whack of gravity fed water to your toilet and basin. Same principle, you're turning the centre screw to an either vertical or horizontal position, and let me try and show you, it's just a big improvement in terms of aperture to the smaller Ballofix. So we will tend to use these on basins where we have gravity fed systems or toilets where we have gravity fed systems, so it just gives you a nice encouraged flow into the system, because there are certain systems with certain inlet valves where if you don't have enough pressure going through the inlet valve, it will fail to shut off the diaphragm into the inlet valve and just keep weeping. So if you're having experiencing a problem like that, I recommend a full bore isolation valve. So the next step up really from a full bore isolation valve is the butterfly valve, and I would say that 9 times out of 10 with a vanity unit with a void in the back where it doesn't need to look as smart as that being exposed on its own behind a pedestal, I would tend to use a butterfly valve, and it's exactly the same principle as a full bore Ballofix valve, that it's completely straight through, and when you turn the valve handle it switches it off like that. I just think that they are so much easier in a tight space, in the void of a vanity unit where you tend to have 60-70 mil. Once your pipe is clipped to the wall, you can reach under and just switch it on and switch it off like that so easily, as opposed to trying to get under there with a screwdriver and line that up. So this is our go-to for more hidden work in vanity units, as opposed to the same version but it's just a lever. So you tend to see these more in airing cupboards with high pressure systems. You'll see them on the wall, a lever valve. They just are a little bit more cumbersome in units because you've got a hot and cold next to each other and a waste pipe all coming through a small void. You don't really want a big handle swinging around the place. It's far easier in the units to have a nice butterfly valve, and you can switch that out in your in the pack. Will come in either blue or red for hot and cold, and the same for a lever valve. Will come with an option for a hot handle or a cold handle, and these are what we use all the time when we're plumbing in showers in the loft or showers in an airing cupboard. We'll use a lever valve, and they'll do these in 22mm as well. So for our bathrooms, we will use a 22mm version of a lever valve under the bath, because baths can be quite restrictive for getting in there and turning water on and off. So easier to go down and just turn the thing on and turn it off, rather than getting down there with a screwdriver. And these lever valves and butterfly valves aren't directional, so they won't have an arrow on them. So recapping these bathroom valves, we do use these now and again for high pressure systems, but I think these are a little bit nicer if they're not in full view. If they are in full view for an open toilet like this, you would probably use either one of these for high pressure or for gravity fed systems if they are exposed and on view. If they're not on view, I would tend to use one of these or one of these behind a basin unit, or something there where it's closed away and you don't see it, because you don't want to walk into a bathroom and see that or that floor level, so it's not great. And then one of these for our airing cupboards and our showers, or under a bath in 22mm. And then that takes us on to the nemesis in my world. So these are gate valves. They're most commonly used in your airing cupboard on a gravity fed system. You'll have a couple of pipes coming down from the cold water storage tank. One will go into the bottom of your hot water cylinder, and that will be feeding the hot water cylinder and pushing the hot water out through the top. That will isolate your hot. and then you'll have another pipe coming down from the cold water storage and feeding the rest of the cold in the bathrooms or wherever. So you'll most likely have a couple of these. If you're very lucky in your house and you never have any pumping problems, you probably have never had to shut this off. So it's completely open like that. Very good full bore valves really. But inside here you have a screw running through which attaches to sort of it's like a barrel shaped object, and when you close it, it screws the barrel closed, as you can see there. The problem is when it's fully open for many years, and we can go in and they haven't been touched for 20 years, this chamber gets full of limescale and other bits and bobs, and when you go to turn it, it completely shears the thread off of here and snaps off there, so it'll just wind and wind and wind and wind and wind and wind and never shut off. That happens quite regularly. That's a common occurrence in my world, where you can't shut off a gate valve because the spindle just splits straight off. So I'm not a big fan of these. When we have issues like that and we have to replace the valve, we'll always replace it with a 22mm lever valve like this, and that will go. So we don't often, thankfully, see these very much in bathrooms or airing cupboards in newer houses. I wouldn't use these on a bath. I would always go for a lever valve or a butterfly valve. You can get full bore versions of 22mm isolation valves like this, Ballofix, but they can get very hard to turn. The centre section can get very stiff and seized up over time, so they almost become obsolete anyway. Whereas the lever valve always seems to have a very good action on it and works. So you can sort of pick and choose what valves suit your needs and your projects based on what I've got laid out here, the most common ones. There probably are other alternatives. There's push fit valves with centre levers like this, you know, if you want to get into the push fit realms, but I think the collection of stuff that I've got in front of you here is what you'll most commonly get exposed to if you're doing your own project at home. So yeah, bear in mind everything I've said, and you can choose everything that you want to do for your project and your needs. So guys, I hope that has been helpful. I hope I've explained everything thoroughly enough. If there's something I've missed, put a comment in the comment section. If there's something else you'd like me to talk about, just drop a comment there, or a video you would like to see. Please subscribe if you can, and we'll try and catch you on the next one. Check out our channel for more how-to and bathroom tips. Take care, bye.